Before any whisper of engines or dream of red dust, there is a silence on Earth, a deep, deliberate pause before the motion begins. Inside laboratories glowing softly with white light, engineers and scientists gather around holographic maps of Mars, their reflections blending with the planet's faint orange hue. They speak in calm voices, the sound of purpose blending with the hum of computers. Every movement is careful, every calculation deliberate. This is the quiet before the voyage, a time when thought outweighs noise, when planning feels almost sacred. Somewhere beyond the windows, night stretches across the Earth like a soft blanket. The cities have gone dim, and the stars above resemble the future, distant, waiting, endless. Inside Mission Control, a few people remain awake, tracing the trajectory of a dream. They check numbers, oxygen ratios, propulsion data, each detail another thread in the tapestry of departure. The air smells faintly of coffee and metal, a scent that clings to long nights of thinking and testing. In this hush, the dream of Mars feels both fragile and eternal. Outside, the wind brushes gently against the empty launch pad. The rocket stands tall, ghostly beneath the floodlights, an elegant tower of silver and white, sleeping for now. Technicians move around it like caretakers of something sacred, checking valves and circuits with reverent precision. Their voices are low, their movements slow, as though they fear to wake it before its time. The air is cool, heavy with mist, and somewhere in that stillness is the feeling that Earth itself is holding its breath. In quiet corners of homes far from the launch site, families dream too. Some children draw pictures of astronauts floating in crimson skies. Some parents stay up late watching documentaries, whispering to one another about how far humanity has come. The soft glow of screens fills living rooms, showing simulations of landing crafts and dust storms. Though oceans and continents separate them, there's a shared pulse, a slow, steady rhythm of hope that beats across the planet. In a research base buried deep within desert sand, a small crew trains in silence. They walk in heavy suits through landscapes painted in rust and gold, learning how to live where air cannot be breathed. They practice patience, how to move carefully, to speak only when needed, to think before acting. Every motion becomes a lesson in endurance. In the stillness of the desert, they hear their own breathing and imagine what it will sound like beneath the Martian sky, that lonely rhythm of life against silence. Back at the training facility, the astronauts undergo their final medical checks. The white lights hum softly above as machines murmur around them. Doctors move gently, their words slow and careful. The astronauts' faces are calm, not fearless, but serene. They have accepted the quiet weight of their mission. Every heartbeat, every breath is measured and logged. They know that this calm will soon give way to the roar of engines, but for now, the stillness feels like a promise kept. Somewhere in orbit, satellites glide across the night, silent observers to the Earth's anticipation. Their metallic bodies reflect the faint sunlight like distant thoughts returning home. They send down streams of data, messages of weather, magnetism, solar winds, the unseen guardians ensuring that the path to Mars will be known, not guessed. Even they, drifting endlessly above, are part of this preparation, the silent web that holds humanity steady before the leap. In classrooms and lecture halls, students listen to professors speak of propulsion, gravity wells, and delta-V calculations. Yet beneath all the mathematics, a quieter truth glows, that exploration begins in stillness, in a question whispered under one's breath. What if we go farther? The blackboards fill with equations that will one day become fire and metal, but now, they are only chalk, soft, erasable dreams resting on the surface of possibility. The engineers gather one last time before the countdown days. Around the long tables, holographic projections of Mars shimmer in gentle red light. They trace landing zones, supply routes, and habitats. Someone makes a joke that earns quiet laughter, more from fatigue than humor. Yet there's comfort in that, a reminder of humanity's heartbeat beneath the machinery. As the meeting ends, they linger a little longer, each person lost in the thought that soon, something they built will leave Earth forever. At night, the astronauts lie awake in their quarters. The room is still. Outside the window, the stars drift like small, glowing promises. They think of home, of voices they'll hear only through static. They think of the dust they'll touch, untouched by any hand before. Some feel fear, some feel peace, but all share the same thought: the next breath they take under Earth's sky will soon be their last for years. In that stillness, the heart grows quiet. 2. In hangars and storage bays, crates are stacked neatly, marked with words like oxygen, tools, seeds, and memories. Inside one container rests a small flag, folded tightly, waiting to be lifted into alien winds. Every item has a purpose, but some hold stories, photos taped to walls, small drawings tucked into pockets. The preparation is not only mechanical but deeply human, every bolt and circuit tied to someone's hope of belonging somewhere new. A faint drizzle begins to fall over the launch site. It darkens the concrete, blurs the floodlights, and turns the air to silver mist. Workers in reflective jackets move slowly, covering delicate equipment. Their footsteps echo faintly through the damp air. The rain seems to wash everything clean, as if preparing Earth itself to say goodbye. Above, the clouds roll heavy, holding the unspoken emotion of a planet about to let go of its children. The control room glows softly in blue and amber light. Rows of monitors display numbers that change in calm rhythm: temperature, thrust, oxygen flow. People sit quietly before them, each absorbed in their role. The sound is soft: keystrokes, the distant hiss of ventilation, the faint murmur of radios. It feels almost meditative. They know that one wrong value could unravel years of work, so they treat the silence with reverence. As dawn approaches, the sky begins to lighten, pale and serene. The rocket gleams faintly in the first light, tall and still. Birds circle in the distance, their cries carried away by wind. The world feels suspended between night and day, between stillness and motion. Somewhere deep inside the rocket, the systems begin their slow awakening: soft clicks, the hum of current flowing through wires. It is a machine, but in this moment, it feels alive. Families begin to arrive near the viewing area, wrapped in coats against the morning chill. They speak in hushed tones, their words carried off by the breeze. Some hold small flags, some hold each other's hands. There's excitement, yes, but it's softened by awe. They know they're witnessing something both ordinary and miraculous, the next step of humankind, born from quiet preparation. The air is filled with the weight of meaning. The astronauts dress in silence. Their suits hiss softly as pressure seals engage. The sound is comforting, familiar. They exchange glances, brief, wordless, understanding that no speech could express what's shared between them. A few smile. A few close their eyes for a long moment. The room smells faintly of sterilized fabric and ozone. They have trained for this, dreamed for this. And now, it's no longer training, it's real. As they walk down the long corridor toward the transport vehicle, their footsteps echo softly. Outside the glass, technicians watch in silence, some pressing hands to the window, a small gesture of farewell. The air outside the facility feels heavier, filled with anticipation. The astronauts climb aboard, their breaths slow and even, each aware of the long stillness before the sky finally opens. The vehicle moves quietly along the road toward the launch pad. The rocket looms closer, immense and patient. The horizon blushes faintly with sunrise. The world feels hushed, even the birds have gone still. Every moment stretches, delicate and deliberate. No one speaks. There is only the hum of the engine and the slow rhythm of hearts ready to leave home. Inside the rocket, light panels glow to life one by one. The cabin fills with soft white illumination, sterile yet warm. The astronauts secure their belts, run through final checks. The voices from mission control are calm, steady, each word another thread woven into safety. Outside, steam rises in slow curls around the base of the rocket. The stillness deepens, becoming almost holy. Then, a single word passes through the headsets: ready. It's soft, almost whispered, yet it changes everything. The quiet that has cradled Earth for years of preparation reaches its end. In that breath between stillness and ignition, humanity stands balanced, one heartbeat on Earth, one reaching toward Mars. And for that final instant, the silence is perfect. At first, there is almost nothing, only the whisper of wind sliding across the metal skin of the rocket. The astronauts sit strapped into their seats, their breathing steady beneath layers of fabric and restraint. Outside, dawn softens the edges of the world, turning steel to gold. In that moment before ignition, everything feels suspended, as if the planet itself hesitates to release what it holds so dearly. The silence becomes a pulse, the pause before the heartbeat of engines awakens. A low tremor moves through the ground, quiet at first, almost delicate. Then it grows, steady, deep, like a distant ocean rising from sleep. The rocket hums beneath the astronauts' feet, vibrations traveling through their boots, their bones. Lights blink in soft sequence, each one a confirmation that the years of preparation have come to this single breath. The air thickens with energy, invisible yet alive. In that stillness, power gathers quietly, as if taking a long inhale before the exhale of flame. When the engines finally ignite, it is not chaos but a vast, controlled surrender. Fire blooms downward, brilliant and alive, pressing against the earth with slow insistence. The sound grows from a murmur to a symphony, deep, layered, unrelenting. Inside the cockpit, everything shivers with purpose. The astronauts feel the force building beneath them, like the heartbeat of a god stirring from beneath the ground. Yet amid the roar, there's peace, a realization that everything is unfolding exactly as it must. Outside, the crowd watches in breathless awe. The flame reflects off tearful faces, the bright white of the exhaust like sunlight born too early. Children lift their hands toward the sky, parents hold them close, and for a brief, eternal second, humanity feels united by wonder. The rocket moves slowly at first, rising through its own smoke. It seems impossible that something so heavy could move at all. Yet it does, gently, steadily, like a promise finally kept. Inside the control room, eyes remain fixed on glowing monitors. Voices whisper through headsets, short, precise confirmations of perfection. Liftoff confirmed. The words sound simple, but they carry the weight of centuries of dreaming. Each syllable vibrates with meaning. The engineers who once doubted, who failed and tried again, now watch their creation ascend. Their hands tremble, not from fear, but from reverence for the miracle they helped ignite. The rocket climbs, its fire cutting through the cool morning air. Clouds swirl apart, unable to resist its passage. The sound lingers long after the image fades, a deep echo rolling over hills and oceans. Birds scatter from treetops, startled by the thunder that follows, though it's not anger but triumph that fills the air. The earth, for a moment, feels alive with pride, sending its children outward with fire and grace. Inside the capsule, the astronauts breathe through the acceleration. Gravity clings to them, pressing them into their seats like invisible hands. The numbers climb: altitude, velocity, temperature, each one another step away from home. Yet they do not fight it, they surrender to it, letting the machine carry them upward. Through the small window, the world begins to curve. The horizon bends, painted in blue and white. It's beautiful, achingly so. The vibration becomes a steady rhythm now, like the hum of an enormous heart. Communication crackles softly through their helmets, calm voices guiding them through ascent. Stage 1 nominal. The words drift through static like lullabies of precision. The astronauts exchange small nods, their faces calm but glowing. Each understands that this moment, the lifting away, is both the most powerful and the most fragile part of their journey. As the rocket pierces higher, the sky deepens from blue to indigo, then to black. The atmosphere thins, and the sound shifts. It's no longer a roar but a distant thunder, fading beneath the endless quiet of space. The earth below gleams softly, like a jewel adrift in darkness. The astronauts feel their bodies lighten. The pressure eases. The boundary between weight and weightlessness blurs, and for the first time, they float. The engines slow, their power softening into silence. The capsule drifts now, the sound replaced by the steady hum of life support systems. One of the astronauts looks out through the glass at clouds swirling far below, at continents veiled in light. The planet seems both immense and delicate. They realize that the gentle power of liftoff was not just mechanical, but emotional, an act of love and courage shared by billions of unseen hearts. Down on Earth, the sound fades at last. Only smoke lingers, curling gently over the empty launch pad. The crowd stands silent, stunned by what they've witnessed. A few cry softly, some smile in disbelief. The rocket is gone, but its echo remains in the air, not just as sound, but as memory. The wind carries the scent of burnt fuel and sea salt, mixing the primal with the profound. Humanity has once again touched the sky. In mission control, the tension dissolves into quiet celebration. Applause is restrained, almost reverent. Monitors show telemetry, bright lines of data confirming success. For a few seconds, no one speaks. Then laughter breaks the stillness, gentle, exhausted, relieved. They've done it. Yet even as they rejoice, there's humility in their voices. They know that liftoff is only the beginning, the first step of an odyssey that will test both machine and soul. The astronauts, floating now, feel the gentle tug of momentum carrying them further into darkness. They look down, their home shrinking beneath layers of atmosphere. The blue fades into white, the white into gold, the gold into night. From up here, borders vanish, conflicts disappear, and Earth looks peaceful, a living being cradled in silence. The liftoff has not only lifted them, it has lifted perspective itself. The rocket's spent stages drift away, glowing faintly before disappearing into shadow. Their purpose is complete. Each piece that falls back to Earth carries a whisper of triumph. The capsule continues onward, steady and serene. The engines will sleep for now, saving their fire for the long journey ahead. The astronauts float in that stillness, hearts quiet but full. The world below is no longer their anchor, it is their origin. Time stretches differently now. Minutes feel softer, slower, as the capsule glides beyond the last reach of the atmosphere. The astronauts unclip from their restraints, moving with small, graceful motions. One of them laughs softly as a droplet of water escapes into the air, floating like a tiny planet. They reach out to catch it, their hands steady despite the distance from home. This is the quiet side of power, gentle, effortless, profound. On Earth, night falls again over the launch site. The ocean breathes in slow rhythm, reclaiming its calm. The sky above still carries a faint trail of smoke, illuminated by moonlight. Somewhere far beyond, the capsule glows faintly against the stars, a spark drifting away from its source. The world continues its spin, but something has changed. The silence after liftoff feels sacred, like the pause after a prayer answered. Inside the capsule, they begin their first orbit. Instruments flicker softly, marking altitude and velocity. Earth's curve glimmers below, glowing at its edges where the sun kisses the horizon. The astronauts speak in calm, measured tones, their words floating in the air like the capsule itself. Every motion feels deliberate, peaceful. They are no longer bound by gravity, only guided by the memory of the ground beneath them. Far from the noise of the world, the rocket's ascent feels like a dream replaying in reverse, the fire that lifted them now gone, replaced by an infinite hush. Through the small windows, they can see the stars unblinking, sharp as glass. It's hard to believe that just hours ago, they stood among people and wind and gravity. The gentle power that carried them upward feels almost tender now, a force that never broke, only guided. As they orbit, a faint hum of systems becomes their lullaby. Lights blink in rhythmic order, reminding them that they are safe, alive, surrounded by the work of countless minds and hands. They close their eyes briefly, letting the sensation of floating wash over them. Somewhere deep inside, a feeling of gratitude blooms for the earth, for the fire, for the silence that followed. The gentle power still echoes in their bones. The rocket, now a memory, fades into the distance behind them. Yet its essence remains, not in flame or noise, but in the rhythm of calm that fills the capsule. The astronauts drift toward their next horizon, toward the long red road that waits across the void. Liftoff was not an end or a beginning, but a transformation, the moment when humanity learned, once again, how to rise softly into the unknown. The capsule drifts silently above Earth, wrapped in the stillness that follows ascent. The crew moves in slow, deliberate gestures, every motion careful in the weightless calm. Beyond the windows, the planet curves beneath them, blue, white, and endless. Yet their path lies away from it now. They are poised for the next great movement, the transfer burn that will lift them from Earth's embrace and set them gently upon the long road to Mars. It is not a leap, but a glide, a patient, precise slide through the geometry of space. Engines sleep for now, systems hum softly, and the crew prepares. Computers project their trajectory in pale green lines that arc like threads of light. Every calculation must be perfect, the angle, the timing, the rhythm of velocity. Too soon, and they'd miss Mars by millions of kilometers. Too late, and the planet would move on without them. The astronauts float quietly, reviewing their checklists in calm voices. There's no rush. In space, patience is propulsion. Through the windows, the sunlight grows sharper, unfiltered by air. It paints the cabin in gold, then fades as the ship passes into Earth's shadow. The alternation of light and dark feels like breathing, illumination, silence, illumination again. They drift through it like thoughts between moments. Below, the world rolls on, unaware that its travelers are preparing to leave for years. The crew knows they're crossing not just distance, but time itself. The command to begin the transfer sequence comes softly through the speakers, spoken in calm tones from Earth. There's no drama, no shouting, only quiet confirmation. Systems awaken with gentle clicks, valves open, and dormant circuits warm to life. The astronauts strap themselves in, though they feel no fear, only focus. They've rehearsed this in simulators countless times, but reality has a texture no simulation could ever capture. The air feels thick with meaning. When the main engines ignite, it's not a violent jolt but a deep, smooth push. The acceleration builds slowly, like a steady heartbeat returning after stillness. They can feel it pressing through their backs, subtle yet powerful. Outside, there is no sound, only a long plume of blue-white fire unfolding silently into the void. The ship begins to turn, aligning its nose toward the invisible point where Earth's gravity loosens and Mars's faint pull begins to whisper. Inside, the astronauts speak in low voices, confirming parameters. Velocity increasing. Burn steady. The ship's vibrations hum like a living pulse, wrapping them in soundless power. Through the window, the stars begin to shift, forming slow spirals as the craft pivots through its calculated arc. The movement is graceful, not rushed, the measured turning of a dancer who knows every step by heart. Even in the infinite emptiness, precision has its own kind of beauty. The Earth shrinks below, no longer a world but a glowing presence. Its blues fade to soft silver, then to a faint dot against black. The crew watches in silence, each lost in their own quiet thoughts. Some think of home, of oceans and wind, of the feeling of rain. Others think only of the mission, the math, the momentum. The transfer arc begins, a vast, curved line invisible to the eye yet utterly binding. They are falling forward, not away. As the burn continues, time stretches into something soft and formless. Seconds pass differently here. The astronauts feel both motion and stillness, acceleration without turbulence, power without noise. It's like being carried by a river that makes no sound. The engines glow steady, consuming their fuel with quiet devotion. The data on the screens flickers in reassuring rhythm, each digit a whisper of success. When the burn finally ends, the silence returns like an old friend. The engines sigh to rest, and the capsule glides freely once more. The transition is smooth, almost imperceptible. The astronauts unbuckle, drifting gently. They check readouts, and a small smile moves from one face to another. The numbers are perfect. They are now beyond Earth's reach, set upon their new path. Mars, though distant, is no longer unreachable. The arc has begun. Earth's radio signal still hums faintly through their headsets, delayed but steady. The voices from mission control feel farther away now, softer, more fragile. Trajectory confirmed, someone says, and the words echo through the cabin. The astronauts acknowledge, their voices calm, professional, yet touched with quiet awe. They have left home's gravity behind. What holds them now is only the mathematics of momentum and trust in their ship's strength. As they drift, one astronaut presses a hand to the window. Beyond the glass, the stars remain fixed, eternal. The sensation of motion is abstract, not felt, but known. Yet in the mind, there's a constant awareness of falling, of gliding through invisible curvature. Space, in its vast patience, holds them gently. Every kilometer gained feels earned not by force, but by harmony, a dialogue between machine, human, and the cosmic quiet. The capsule glides through the last edge of Earth's influence, a region so subtle that instruments feel it more than bodies do. The gravitational tides shift almost imperceptibly. Mars begins to exert its faint attraction, its pull a soft hand extended across millions of kilometers. It's strange, this moment they are between worlds, belonging fully to neither. Yet this in-between feels peaceful, like drifting on a current between dreams. They float together in the main cabin, their voices hushed, the hum of life support the only sound. One of them murmurs something about the stars, how bright they seem now that Earth's glare is gone. The others nod. The universe stretches infinitely, but it doesn't feel empty. Every dot of light holds weight, a presence, a destination. In this slow, patient transfer, they are not lost, they are precisely where they must be. The capsule turns slowly, adjusting its attitude with small puffs of gas. The movement is barely perceptible, yet the stars shift slightly, as if bowing to the vessel's passage. These minor corrections keep them true, maintaining the sacred geometry of orbit and distance. Each maneuver is delicate, guided by invisible mathematics that arcs through eternity. The astronauts trust it completely. Space demands faith in precision. Days pass, though time in space feels like water without edges. Earth is now a small light, the moon a faint companion beside it. Mars still lies far ahead, hidden beyond the sunlit path. The crew settles into rhythm, monitoring systems, adjusting instruments, logging readings. Yet beneath the routine lies an awareness of vast motion. Their ship, quiet as thought, is gliding through millions of kilometers with unbroken grace. In the soft light of their cabin, reflections drift: a floating pen, a strand of hair, a slow heartbeat felt through layers of fabric. They are surrounded by machines, yet the experience feels profoundly human. The transfer burn was an act of power, but now comes the art of waiting, of trusting momentum and silence. The path they follow was drawn by invisible lines long before ignition, a curve carved through space by the language of physics and patience. Sometimes they gather by the window to watch the stars roll past. Of course, it's the ship moving, not the stars, but the illusion feels comforting. The universe seems to breathe with them. Every hour, small adjustments keep them aligned. They float through the hum of ion thrusters and the murmur of systems recycling air, turning effort into ease. Space, they realize, rewards steadiness more than strength. In their moments of rest, they write notes, sketch the view, or close their eyes to the sound of machinery. Some record messages for Earth, their words measured and warm, how quiet it is, how alive the silence feels. They describe the glow of sunlight bending over the capsule's hull, the way shadows shift in slow rhythm. These small details, mundane yet profound, are what make this long journey bearable. Outside, the ship leaves a faint trail of plasma that fades almost instantly into black. The curve of its trajectory continues unseen, a perfect harmony of force and timing. Somewhere ahead, Mars waits, moving along its own patient orbit. The two paths will cross, not by accident, but by exquisite alignment. This is the poetry of mechanics, to fall gracefully toward a moving world, to meet it not with haste, but with precision. Within the capsule, there is no sense of rush. The crew understands that the journey's essence is not speed, but flow. They glide along their arc as if carried by a celestial hand. Even their words have slowed, becoming fewer, softer. In the rhythm of daily checks and quiet meals, they find a meditative calm. Out here, movement and stillness feel the same. The transfer is not an event, it is a state of being. One night, as the ship crosses into the shadow of the sun, the stars bloom brighter than ever. The astronauts watch in silence, drifting near the window. The vastness no longer feels cold, it feels like belonging. The gentle curve of their path stretches ahead like a thread of light, invisible yet sure. They are suspended in patience, moving steadily toward destiny. The transfer continues, a long, elegant glide between worlds. The days aboard the vessel unfold in silence, so deep it begins to feel like a second kind of gravity, invisible but constant. The crew has slipped fully into the cruise phase now, where the great bursts of power give way to patience. There is no roaring engine, no trembling metal, only the slow hum of air recyclers and the heartbeat rhythm of machinery that never sleeps. Outside, the stars seem motionless, suspended in perfect stillness. Yet the ship glides ever onward, tracing its silent arc toward Mars. Morning and night have no real meaning here. The crew keeps time by the soft cycling of lights that mimic Earth's rhythm, a faint golden glow that brightens, then dims again. It helps them remember the passing of days, though each one feels both endless and brief. They rise quietly, check systems, float through narrow corridors with practiced grace. Their movements are gentle now, as though they've learned to match the calm pulse of space itself. In the command module, the control panels glow with muted blues and greens. Each display is a fragment of a greater symphony: oxygen levels, reactor status, navigation data, radiation exposure. The astronauts review them in silence, marking small notes on digital tablets. They don't rush, there's no urgency. The ship's condition is steady, its heartbeat reliable. This part of the journey demands not courage, but calm stewardship, the quiet art of keeping everything just right. Breakfast drifts in sealed pouches, floating lazily until caught. They eat slowly, talking softly, their laughter subdued but warm. These shared moments become sacred, tiny islands of humanity surrounded by infinite distance. The taste of rehydrated fruit, the faint scent of metal, the sound of spoons tapping against plastic, all are reminders that they're still alive, still tethered to ordinary life. In this monotony, comfort is found in the familiar. After meals, each astronaut attends to a ritual of small tasks. One checks the solar arrays, their shimmering panels unfolding like wings against sunlight. Another inspects the oxygen scrubbers, listening for any faint irregularities. A third runs diagnostics on navigation thrusters. These aren't dramatic acts, but they hold immense meaning. Every small adjustment, every verification of stability, is an act of quiet devotion, the daily prayer of those who've left home behind. Outside the windows, the view never changes, yet it's never the same. The stars do not twinkle here, they are sharp, unwavering. The sun burns smaller, more distant, its light filtered by distance into a gentler gold. The crew often finds themselves gazing without purpose, hypnotized by the vastness. It's not loneliness they feel, but awe, a peaceful surrender to something greater than thought. Space, in its endless silence, becomes a kind of teacher. Occasionally, small adjustments must be made to the trajectory. The maneuvering jets hiss softly, and the ship tilts ever so slightly. The movement is so delicate that even loose objects barely drift. These course corrections are rare, but vital, a whisper of precision ensuring that the ship will meet Mars exactly where and when it must. The astronauts perform them with ritual care, guided by ground control's calm voices echoing from millions of kilometers away. Communication with Earth arrives in gentle delay, light speed carrying words that take minutes to cross the void. By the time questions are answered, the context has already shifted. Conversations become slower, more reflective. They send logs, observations, and messages home, updates on the ship's health, recordings of their thoughts, small jokes to ease the distance. The replies that come later feel like echoes, reminders that home is still turning far behind them. In the quiet hours, some astronauts read or write. They float near their bunks, scrolling through books or journaling on tablets. Others simply watch the stars and listen to the hum of circulation fans. The ship itself becomes a companion, a living rhythm of vibrations, tones, and flickers. They know every sound by heart now, the soft thrum of coolant pumps, the gentle click of relays switching, the occasional creak as metal adjusts to subtle temperature shifts. Sleep comes easily here, though not from exhaustion. The cabin lights dim to deep amber, and the soundscape narrows to the low breathing of the vessel. The beds are narrow cocoons, secured to the walls, but the weightless rest feels like floating through dreams. Sometimes they dream of earth, wind, trees, the feeling of rain. Sometimes they dream of nothing at all, as if space itself whispers them to sleep. The calm is deep, unbroken. When they wake, it's often to the same view, the endless black, the slow turning of the ship, the pale disk of the sun far behind. Yet even monotony has texture here. They begin to recognize subtle differences in the light, faint color shifts, the position of constellations through the window. Days merge together like brushstrokes, forming something quiet and profound, not a blur of time lost, but a meditation in motion. They exercise daily, floating in elastic harnesses, their movements graceful and slow. Muscles must remember Earth's pull, even out here where gravity is only a memory. The machines hum softly, resistance generated through bands and pressure suits. Each breath feels like balance, between discipline and ease, between the body's need and space's indifference. The astronauts smile through their exertion, grateful for the warmth that movement brings. Every so often, alarms chime softly, not emergencies, just reminders for maintenance. Filters to be replaced, valves to check, software to recalibrate. The astronauts move through these rituals with practiced serenity. It's work that demands focus, yet the rhythm of it feels soothing, almost meditative. The act of maintaining balance, of keeping air flowing and power steady, becomes the essence of life itself in this place where nothing can be taken for granted. Through the long cruise, they develop a wordless companionship. Conversations shrink, silence grows comfortable. A nod, a shared glance, a brief smile, these replace long exchanges. It's not isolation, but trust. Each knows the other's movements, their habits, their small rituals of comfort. Together they've built a language made of quiet gestures, shaped by the patience of travel through nothingness. Occasionally, they capture images through observation windows. The camera shutters click softly, recording the endless night. In some frames, the sun is a pinprick, in others, the faint shimmer of dust glows like distant fog. These photos will be studied later, but now they serve a simpler purpose, to remind them that even emptiness holds beauty. Out here, stillness itself becomes art. Meals are scheduled by clock rather than hunger. Food pouches warm gently, releasing faint sense of spice, salt, or sweetness. They eat slowly, sharing glances, sometimes exchanging quiet jokes. There's no rush, no noise, just the steady rhythm of sustenance in motion. They clean carefully afterward, catching stray crumbs before they drift. Cleanliness, too, becomes a kind of devotion, respect for the small world that keeps them alive. Sometimes, they pass hours without speaking. The silence feels neither heavy nor empty, it simply is. The mind begins to slow, too. Match the unchanging pace of the voyage. Thoughts come like ripples rather than waves. The vast distance to Mars becomes less a challenge and more a landscape, a serene horizon that moves only in the quiet language of momentum. This stillness teaches them something rare, that peace can exist without stillness of body, only of mind. In the science module, experiments unfold in the same unhurried rhythm. They monitor plant growth in small sealed domes, watch crystals form in zero gravity, study radiation levels and microbe resilience. Each observation is a story told in numbers, a whisper of understanding carried back to Earth. The work is meticulous, but never frantic. They have learned to blend patience with precision, the twin virtues of all who travel between worlds. Days blend gently into weeks. The ship adjusts its orientation from time to time, rolling slightly to balance its thermal load. The stars drift slowly across the windows, constellations tilting and reforming. Each shift feels like the turning of a page in a book written without words. The astronauts barely notice the motion anymore, it has become part of their inner rhythm, as natural as breathing. Messages from Earth grow slightly more delayed as the distance widens. The voices of home stretch thinner, softer, fading into the static hum of transmission. Yet they never feel forgotten. Somewhere, far away, people still watch over them, monitor every pulse of the ship, every line of data. That quiet connection, though faint, keeps them anchored. It reminds them that their solitude is shared by countless unseen eyes. As the midpoint of the journey approaches, there is a subtle shift in atmosphere, not in the air, but in the heart. The halfway mark brings both pride and longing. They have traveled millions of kilometers, yet the destination still lies ahead. The crew gathers one evening to share a simple toast with rehydrated juice, the gesture small but meaningful. They float their cups together, smiling in silence. The sound of the clink is soft, almost like a whisper of Earth remembered. Night after night, they continue their soft routines. Logs updated, sensors checked, systems polished and tuned. Nothing changes, Yet everything deepens. The space between actions grows gentler, the silence between words grows warmer. They are no longer merely surviving the journey, they are becoming part of it, blending into its rhythm like notes in a long, soothing song. The cruise continues, and in its calm persistence, they find peace. Out here, space is never truly still. Even when everything seems calm and the engines are quiet, gravity is always at work, gentle, invisible fingers tugging at the craft's path. The astronauts float through the soft hum of machinery, checking screens that track their progress through the endless dark. Small thrusters hiss now and then, correcting the tiniest deviations, each adjustment like a whisper in the silence, keeping the craft steady on its invisible road to Mars. Each maneuver is deliberate, rehearsed, and calculated back on Earth before being performed in this silent theater of blackened stars. The onboard computers, calm and tireless, monitor every motion, comparing the real path with the one predicted by equations written long ago. A few fractions of a degree, a nudge of velocity, these are the kinds of corrections that keep the journey alive, ensuring that months of travel don't drift into the void. Sometimes, the astronauts watch as the blue of Earth fades behind and the red glimmer of Mars grows slightly stronger ahead. Between those two worlds, the course corrections feel like small gestures of devotion, small reminders that even across millions of kilometers, human precision and patience guide the way. It's a collaboration between human instinct and machine intelligence, an ongoing dance of care. In the stillness, every sound feels amplified, the soft clicks of instruments, the murmur of fans, the quiet breaths through helmets during check routines. They know that out here, even the smallest shift in trajectory can grow into something vast over time. So they remain vigilant, their eyes tracing the path of distant suns and their minds tuned to the rhythm of the ship's steady progress. When one correction is needed, the signal comes from Earth, delayed, but confident. A pulse of code arrives, followed by a subtle change in the craft's alignment. The astronauts feel nothing, but they see the instruments adjust, numbers sliding slightly toward perfection. It's almost like the ship is breathing, expanding, contracting, centering itself in the middle of infinity. Each correction brings a small comfort. It reminds them that they are not drifting alone. The eyes of mission control are always watching, guiding from across the gulf of space. On Earth, people are awake at all hours, monitoring that thin line of data, ensuring that every movement is true, every thrust gentle and precise. It's teamwork, stretched across time and distance. At times, they dim the lights inside, letting the stars outside fill the cabin with soft glows. Through the windows, they can see entire galaxies slowly turning, and it reminds them of the scale of their motion, so tiny, yet so deliberate. The ship's path, though invisible, feels like a promise drawn between worlds. The instruments display graphs of perfect arcs, curves that describe gravity's patient pull. To stay on that arc is to stay balanced between freedom and control, between falling and flying. The astronauts learn to trust it, to find peace in the precision, and to let the mathematics of motion carry them like a gentle tide. Sometimes, when a correction burn begins, the entire craft seems to hum slightly, a faint vibration that moves through the structure and into their bones. It lasts only a moment, but in that moment, the astronauts feel connected to their ship, to their mission, to the quiet forces shaping the cosmos. The hum fades, the stars hold steady, and once again, stillness returns. There's beauty in such patience. Unlike the fiery launch or the distant landing, this part of the journey asks for calmness, discipline, and faith in the unseen. The crew moves through slow days and quieter nights, measuring progress not in distance but in subtle steadiness. Every tiny adjustment feels like tuning an instrument, perfecting a cosmic melody that only they can hear. They speak softly during these times. Words carry differently in small, pressurized spaces. Conversations drift to Earth, to family, to old memories, to the promise of the red horizon that awaits them. And through all of it, the steady rhythm of data streams continues, whispering reassurance that all is well. When solar radiation surges or micrometeoroid warnings appear, they shift positions, ready to protect themselves and the craft. But often, those moments pass uneventfully, and the watch continues. They learn to trust the silence as much as the instruments, to let the emptiness of space become familiar rather than frightening. At times, they perform manual checks, floating near control panels, watching numbers shift by decimals. They adjust course with the lightest touch, the way a painter might refine a line with a single careful stroke. These moments remind them that despite all automation, human hands still matter, that the spirit of exploration still needs touch. Outside, the universe offers no sign that they're moving at all. Stars do not streak, they hold their places with eternal patience. Yet the crew knows they are traveling millions of kilometers every day, each correction helping to keep them aligned with a destination that grows imperceptibly closer. In the long stretches between these moments, they look out into the blackness and think about the idea of direction itself. Here, there is no up or down, no left or right. Only the path, a slender, invisible thread of math and intention, drawn across the universe by human hands. Sometimes, during watch shifts, one of them will float quietly near the window and just observe. They imagine the lines of gravitational influence stretching all around them, Earth's pull fading, Mars's growing stronger. The ship is a leaf on that current, and every correction helps it stay on course through those cosmic winds. Each time they fire the thrusters, they think about how fragile their position truly is. A few seconds too long, a slight miscalculation, and the course could veer into eternity. But precision keeps them safe, turning potential chaos into quiet grace. It's a balance that defines the very essence of space travel. The log entries from these days read simply, "Minor correction complete. All systems nominal." But behind those calm words lies the steady heartbeat of the mission, countless hours of coordination, patience, and care. The simplicity of those reports mirrors the serenity they strive to maintain. They take turns writing in their journals, recording their private reflections. Some write about the stars, some about the feeling of movement without motion, others about the hum of the ship as it breathes in silence. These quiet writings are like small anchors, keeping their minds steady amid the infinity outside. The mission clock ticks onward, but it doesn't feel like time on Earth. Out here, days blur into a constant twilight, lit by the distant sun. Each correction, each moment of focus, helps them keep faith in progress that can't be seen, only trusted. The line between discipline and dreaming grows thin, peaceful. As the journey continues, the corrections become less frequent, more refined. The path grows narrower, and the stars outside seem to lean slightly toward Mars's direction. The crew knows what it means, they are being pulled homeward, toward the next great moment. But for now, they remain still, quiet, and watchful, caretakers of a fragile trajectory through the boundless dark. The silence deepens as Mars grows large in the window, no longer a distant pinprick but a world, round and rust-colored, turning slowly beneath them. The astronauts can see faint dust storms moving like silk across its plains. Their hearts beat a little faster, though their movements remain calm. After so many months of quiet travel, this approach feels almost sacred, like standing at the threshold of a dream they've held for years. Mission Control's voices, delayed but steady, come through the speakers, guiding, advising, reassuring. "Begin entry sequence prep," they say, their words crossing millions of kilometers. The astronauts respond with simple acknowledgements, practiced and serene. They know what's coming, the gentle but immense transition from interplanetary flight to capture by Mars's thin, cold air. Each step now must be perfect. The ship begins its slow rotation, aligning its heat shield toward the planet's upper atmosphere. The thrusters fire in short, measured bursts, each one bringing them closer to the precise entry angle. Too shallow, and they'll skip off into space forever. Too steep, and they'll burn. Between those extremes lies a corridor of survival, narrow and invisible, yet perfectly drawn. Inside, lights dim to soft amber. The cabin hums with restrained energy as systems shift from cruise to entry mode. The astronauts secure themselves, checking straps, reading displays one last time. Everything they've done until now leads to this, a descent not through familiar skies, but into a world no human has yet touched with their own eyes. Through the window, Mars fills half the view. Its horizon is curved, wrapped in a faint blush of atmosphere. It looks delicate, almost shy, yet the crew knows its winds are fierce and its temperatures unforgiving. The planet feels close enough to reach, yet infinitely strange. The calm voice of the commander cuts through the silence, final trajectory confirmed. Then, there is stillness, the final pause before descent. The engines rest, the data streams quiet for a moment. Outside, space is utterly black, while below, Mars glows faintly in reflected sunlight. Time stretches thin, every second feels long enough to hold an entire lifetime of waiting. When the first whisper of atmosphere brushes the heat shield, it's almost imperceptible. A faint tremor runs through the hull, the soundless vibration of friction building far outside. Instruments record temperature spikes, pressure shifts, plasma flow beginning to gather. The spacecraft, once gliding in pure vacuum, now feels the touch of a world. The crew feels the vibrations grow, subtle at first, then rhythmic. It's not violent, just alive, a new kind of motion. The thin Martian air wraps around the craft like invisible cloth, glowing faintly as molecules split and spark. In those moments, the universe feels close, almost tangible, as if the ship is brushing the edge of creation itself. Inside, they monitor everything: altitude, velocity, heat load, attitude control. Each number holds meaning, each fluctuation a story. The computers hum, compensating in milliseconds for forces that once took decades of planning to anticipate. Every sound in the cabin feels amplified, the breath in helmets, the faint ticking of instruments. The commander glances at the others, and they exchange a brief smile. It's small, tired, but deeply human. They know the danger isn't over, it's just beginning, yet in that smile lives every reason they ever came. Outside, the ship begins to glow faintly gold as friction paints its edges with fire. In that thin veil of atmosphere, art and science merge. The descent path bends gracefully around Mars, slowing the ship with heat and resistance alone. It's a controlled fall, a surrender to physics that feels almost poetic. The astronauts can't see the flames outside, but they know the whisper of entry has become a soft roar. Telemetry continues to stream to Earth, delayed but alive. On the other end, engineers watch every data point like it's a heartbeat. No one breathes easily, every second feels suspended between failure and triumph. The ship continues its slow surrender, bleeding speed, turning the violence of entry into a slow, deliberate glide. The crew feels the deceleration, pressing them gently into their seats. After months of floating freely, the return of weight feels strange, intimate, almost nostalgic. It's a reminder that they're approaching a world again, that gravity, soft and distant until now, is beginning to claim them. Through the viewports, the glow fades. The heat shield cools, and the color of the sky changes from black to a deep, muted orange. The planet's surface emerges through a haze of dust, landscapes forming like memories beneath them. Craters, canyons, and valleys appear, silent and ancient. Mars is no longer a dream, it's real. The parachutes deploy with a muffled burst. A ripple runs through the craft as the drag increases. The sound is soft, almost like fabric, snapping in the wind, but out here, in this thin air, it's enough to slow their descent. The ship sways gently, descending like a falling leaf over a sleeping world. The onboard displays come alive again. Altitude counts down. Wind readings fluctuate. Systems transition to landing mode. The commander calls out readings, voice steady, hands light. The ship answers with mechanical grace, thrusters firing, stabilizers adjusting, everything working in practiced harmony. Below them, the surface details sharpen. Dust plumes rise and fade. The terrain looks unreal, pale reds and golds, flat plains that stretch to the horizon, broken only by dark ridges. The crew feels a stillness settle over them, a silence deeper than anything they've known. They are about to become part of a story larger than themselves. The final descent burns begin. The ship tilts slightly, correcting its angle, centering over the chosen landing zone. The commander's hand hovers near the manual override, though they hope never to use it. The thrusters murmur, a soft, rhythmic song that echoes through the hull like a lullaby of precision. Meters turn into seconds. The ground rushes closer. The astronauts watch shadows form beneath the ship, stretching long across the crimson dust. It's happening now, after all the distance, all the isolation, the endless quiet, they are arriving. Every heartbeat seems to echo through the chamber. Then comes the final whisper, the faintest thud as landing gear meets the soil. For a moment, no one speaks. The instruments confirm it before anyone dares to breathe. Contact light. They've landed. The silence that follows is the most profound they've ever known, the kind that fills every thought, every breath, every piece of their being. They sit there, suspended in disbelief. Outside, Mars waits, cold, ancient, and utterly still. The wind moves fine dust in lazy spirals, leaving faint trails that vanish into the horizon. The commander finally exhales, voice trembling slightly as they report to Earth. Touchdown confirmed. Mars has us. In that instant, time folds in on itself. Every year of training, every correction in the dark, every whisper of propulsion, all of it converges here. Humanity has reached another world again, not in theory but in touch. The silence outside feels endless, but inside, the hearts of the crew pulse with quiet wonder. The ship powers down into safe mode. Lights dim once more. Beyond the small windows, the Martian dawn begins to rise, pale and distant, painting the surface in soft red light. The crew gazes out in awe, knowing they've crossed something invisible, not just space, but a threshold of human will. They unstrap slowly, their movements gentle as though not to disturb the peace of the new world. One by one, they float toward the window, watching the landscape stretch beyond the horizon. Dust dances like smoke. The air outside is unbreathable, but beautiful. The entire world seems to whisper its welcome, quiet, fragile, eternal. The commander records the final note in the log, landing complete. Systems stable. External conditions within expected range. The words are simple, but behind them lies a moment that defies simplicity. Outside, Mars keeps turning beneath an alien sky, and humanity, for the first time in this chapter of its long journey, has come to rest upon it. And in the stillness that follows, as the hum of systems fades into silence, there's a peace unlike any other. The whisper of entry is over, but its echo lingers, soft, endless, and alive in the quiet red dust. The cabin is dim, quiet, and filled with the soft hum of machinery that seems to breathe alongside the crew. Outside, the first light of the Martian morning spills across the land, thin, pale, and red. It isn't like sunrise on Earth. There's no warmth, no birds, no sound. Yet the astronauts can feel it through the walls of the lander, a silent invitation to step out and join the stillness of another world. Their hearts beat faster, even though their movements remain deliberate and slow. They begin their preparations with ritual-like care. Every latch, every valve, every pressure seal is checked and rechecked. The suits that once felt bulky now seem like sacred armor, thin layers separating life from the freezing void outside. The commander's voice is low and calm, confirming suit pressure, confirm oxygen, confirm comms. Around the cabin, replies come like echoes in a cathedral, solemn, steady, precise. Through the small viewport, the crew can see the land stretching endlessly in all directions. It glows softly under the early sunlight, every grain of dust shimmering like fine powder. Shadows are long and sharp, cast by rocks that haven't moved for millions of years. The beauty of it is quiet, the kind that seeps into you, that silences thought. Each of them feels it, though no one speaks. The hatch release sequence begins. A faint hiss fills the cabin as air is carefully vented. The sound feels final, like a breath before a new beginning. For a moment, everything holds still. Then the hatch opens, revealing the surface of Mars framed by light red, gold, and cold. Dust particles hover in slow motion, suspended in the thin air, drifting lazily into eternity. The commander steps forward first, moving cautiously, hands gripping the sides of the airlock. Every motion feels heavier, slower. Gravity is less here, but the weight of the moment makes each step profound. As the boots touch the surface, a small cloud of dust blooms outward, slow, graceful, almost like smoke underwater. Humanity's footprint now belongs to another world. The first words are not for history books but for themselves, a soft whisper that barely carries across the comms, "We're here." The others follow, stepping down one by one, their boots pressing delicate impressions into soil that hasn't known touch since the birth of the solar system. The surface is fine, like sifted ash, and it clings to everything. Yet it feels solid beneath them, a world ready to hold their weight. They take a moment to simply stand there, surrounded by silence. The landscape stretches vast and ancient plains of dust, scattered boulders, distant mountains wrapped in mist. The sky is not blue but pale orange, fading to lavender near the horizon. The sun appears smaller, colder. It feels less like daybreak and more like the slow awakening of an eternal twilight. The crew moves carefully, testing balance, adjusting their steps to Mars's rhythm. The reduced gravity makes them light, almost floating, yet their footing must be deliberate. They record every sensation, the resistance of the soil, the subtle sway of the suit, the way sound moves oddly through the helmet speakers. Each detail matters. Each observation is a message to the generations who will follow. They plant the first sensor array, their gloved hands moving with precision. The device hums faintly, a fragile piece of earthly technology now reading the pulse of an alien planet. Its first data stream shows up on their wrist displays temperature, pressure, radiation. Numbers, but behind them, truth. They've made contact not just with the planet's surface, but with its reality. One astronaut takes a slow, deliberate walk a few meters away from the lander. Each step feels like poetry, the soundless rhythm of progress itself. When they turn, they see their footprints leading back to the ship, a fragile chain connecting humanity's past to its future. The sight fills them with quiet awe. On Earth, footsteps fade. Here, they might last for centuries. They take samples, filling containers with fine red dust, each scoop careful and exact. They know these grains will one day tell stories of minerals, of water long gone, of time itself. Every movement is deliberate, not rushed, as though they're handling sacred relics from creation's first dawn. The ground beneath them holds mysteries older than memory. The commander pauses to look toward the horizon, where distant hills glow under the thin sunlight. "We're standing on a place that's waited for us longer than we've been alive," they murmur. The others nod silently, the words sinking deep. The air may be unbreathable, but the feeling of connection is pure oxygen to their spirits. They unfurl a small flag, not as a claim, but as a gesture of arrival. It moves stiffly in the still air, more symbol than motion. Around it, the Martian dust glitters softly, stirred by their steps. The moment feels both monumental and fragile, a whisper in cosmic time, yet loud enough to echo across generations. The crew continues their work, setting up instruments, marking positions, transmitting data back to Earth. Each transmission travels minutes through space before reaching the people who wait below, yet the connection feels immediate. Billions of hearts listen to the silence between words, imagining this red dawn through the eyes of those who walk it. They collect rocks, smooth and ancient, their surfaces carved by eons of wind and cold. Some are sharp, others rounded, but all share the same quiet endurance. The astronauts cradle them as if they were alive, small pieces of a planet that once held rivers, perhaps even storms. These stones are storytellers, patient beyond measure. Hours pass slowly, though time here feels different, stretched, softened. The crew works methodically, sometimes pausing just to look, to feel, to exist within the stillness. The shadows shorten and then lengthen again as the sun drifts low. Mars's day, nearly like Earth's, seems timeless in its calm rotation. Inside their helmets, the astronauts talk softly. They describe what they see, how it feels, the color of the dust, the texture of the ground beneath their boots. Their words are calm, steady, but there's a tremor of wonder in every sentence. The comms carry those voices across the void, to mission control, to waiting ears, to history. As the light fades, the first Martian twilight begins. The sky deepens to violet, the stars beginning to appear, brighter here than anywhere on Earth. The crew pauses their work, standing together in quiet awe. For a moment, they feel like travelers at the edge of eternity, suspended between two worlds, breathing life into the silence. They turn on their helmet lights, pale cones of illumination cutting across the red dust. The beams reveal their footprints, tools, instruments, small marks of civilization on a world that's never known it. The dust motes drift lazily in the light, moving like tiny ghosts of forgotten winds. Everything feels alive in its own way. Returning to the lander, they glance back once more. The ground looks the same, yet different now, human. A part of it has been changed forever, not by conquest, but by touch. The faint prints and instruments will remain long after they've gone, quiet evidence of presence. Mars, once only seen, now remembers them. Inside the airlock, they move with care, brushing off the clinging dust. It floats in fine spirals under their lights, glittering like powdered ruby. The hiss of repressurization fills the chamber, and for a moment, the thin atmosphere of Mars mingles with the breath of humanity. Then the inner door opens, and the cabin welcomes them back with warmth and light. They remove their helmets slowly. The air inside smells faintly metallic, familiar. Faces flushed, eyes wide, they exchange glances that need no words. Each of them knows what they've done, what they've witnessed. Outside, the planet waits, endless and quiet, but inside, the weight of history settles gently on their shoulders. They record everything. The commander logs the time, the temperature, the success of the first EVA. But beneath the technical details, there's a softer truth none of them can quite write down, that for a few precious hours, they weren't visitors. They were part of Mars's dawn, breathing the same silence that shaped its rocks and dust. As night fully falls, they watch the stars through the viewport. Phobos and Deimos, the small moons, drift slowly above the horizon. They seem close enough to touch. The crew says little, only soft murmurs of reflection, their minds filled with the enormity of where they are. The hum of systems lulls them into quiet thought. They eat a simple meal, food from Earth that tastes somehow different now. Each bite carries memories, oceans, forests, rain. They think of home, but it feels far away, like a dream half remembered. Here, in the stillness of another planet, they've begun something new, a chapter written in dust and light. Before resting, the commander takes one last look outside. The surface gleams faintly under starlight, the flag still standing, footprints leading toward the horizon. A soft layer of dust has already begun to settle, reshaping their marks. Time is claiming them, as it always does, but not erasing their meaning. They lie down in their bunks, hearts slow and steady, the weight of Mars beneath them. The hum of the ship becomes a lullaby, a reminder that they are both fragile and infinite. Outside, the planet turns silently, its first human guests asleep under an alien sky. The dawn they met today will live forever, the dawn of another home found among the stars. The first days after landing are filled with the careful rhythm of routine systems checks, suit inspections, data transmissions. But slowly, something shifts in the mission's tone. It's no longer just about surviving on Mars, it's about belonging. The astronauts begin to think of permanence, of turning the lander from a fragile refuge into a true home. Outside, the dust still moves in quiet spirals, but inside, plans for life begin to take shape like seeds waiting for light. The habitat modules are deployed one by one, their metallic shells unfolding like petals under the pale sun. Each connection is deliberate, airlocks sealed, energy lines secured, filters tested. Within hours, a small cluster of structures stands against the red horizon, their smooth surfaces catching the dim morning glow. The base looks humble, yet it represents something monumental, the first breath of a human settlement on another planet. Inside, the air begins to hum with machinery working together, oxygen scrubbers, water recyclers, thermal regulators. The systems murmur softly, blending into a mechanical lullaby. The crew listens to it like one listens to rain back home. Every sound means life. Every light that stays green means the balance is holding. In this fragile equilibrium, comfort is measured not by warmth, but by stability. Water becomes their first true companion. Extracted from beneath the soil, it arrives as ice, dull and heavy, chipped from hidden reserves trapped beneath the regolith. The process of turning it into liquid feels like an act of reverence. When the first droplets form and glisten in the light, the crew gathers around them in silence. They are small mirrors of Earth, glimmering proof that survival can become sustainability. They learn the rhythm of recycling, every molecule counted, every drop cherished. Nothing is wasted here. Their own breath becomes part of the cycle, feeding systems that return oxygen to the air, water to the tanks, and humidity to the growing plants. Life on Mars is a closed circle, a quiet dance of giving and receiving. In that balance, they begin to understand what living truly means. The air they breathe is artificial, yet it feels sacred. It hums through filters and pressure valves, carrying warmth and faint metallic traces. The habitat's walls hold the atmosphere like cupped hands, separating human life from the vast, frozen emptiness outside. Yet within those thin walls, laughter begins to return, soft, tired laughter, but real. As weeks pass, they begin to think about green. The hydroponic chamber is small, almost an afterthought in the mission plan, but to them, it feels like a sanctuary. Racks of nutrient tanks, transparent tubes, and delicate seedlings stand ready to receive their care. They set to work, hands steady, eyes bright. When the first shoots unfurl, pale and fragile, it feels like the planet itself is exhaling for the first time in centuries. Every leaf becomes a miracle. The plants grow under artificial light that mimics the sun of Earth, bathing them in soft gold. They respond with silent patience, transforming carbon dioxide into oxygen, their roots drinking from reclaimed water. The astronauts visit them often, speaking softly, adjusting humidity, touching the leaves with gloved fingertips. It feels like tending to hope itself. The scent of growing things fills the chamber, faint, sweet, earthy. It's unlike anything else on Mars. The air here feels thicker, kinder, touched by memory. The crew lingers among the plants whenever they can, their voices low, their hearts calm. Some bring music, soft notes echoing among the green, mixing with the hum of fans and pumps. They name their little garden Eden too. It's a small space, but it transforms everything. Meals begin to taste a little fresher with the first harvests of lettuce and herbs. Even the recycled air feels gentler, enriched by oxygen born from the plant's quiet work. The habitat begins to feel less like a bubble and more like a breathing being, a living ecosystem, fragile but resilient. Outside, the cold remains merciless, but within these thin walls, warmth grows. The astronauts begin to mark their days by the plant's progress, germination, sprouting, flowering. Each milestone becomes a celebration, each leaf a reminder that even on a dead world, life finds a way to whisper back. They've brought a fragment of Earth to Mars, and it is thriving. Water and light remain their most precious resources. The solar arrays stretch across the plain, turning slowly toward the distant sun. Every watt matters, every spark of energy planned with care. The water extraction units hum beneath the surface, pulling from ice veins locked in ancient soil. It's not abundance, but it's enough, a quiet sufficiency earned by patience. Sometimes, after long work shifts, the crew gathers by the viewport, sipping rehydrated tea while watching the horizon. The light here changes differently, slower, more deliberate. Dusk paints the world in shades of crimson and violet, and the stars appear like sharp jewels. The sight never loses its wonder. It reminds them that this place, for all its distance, is now home. They begin to adapt in subtle ways. Their bodies move differently in the weaker gravity, their sleep cycles adjust to Mars's long days, their senses sharpen to the muted sounds of the habitat. Even their thoughts change, quieting under the planet's stillness. The silence outside is no longer hostile, it's peaceful, vast, and humbling. When they expand the garden chamber, it becomes a place of reflection. New trays of spinach and tomatoes sprout under the glow of LED light. The commander installs a small water loop that creates a gentle trickle, the first sound of flowing water on Mars in human memory. It's soft and steady, and it fills the air with a music unlike any other. The crew finds themselves drawn there, lingering between shifts. One writes in a notebook, another sketches the plants, a third records quiet voice logs, describing how the leaves shimmer in the filtered light. The garden becomes their heartbeat, a living proof that they can do more than survive. They can nurture, create, and dream. Beyond the domes, they begin to build small structures from local materials, compressed regolith bricks, light frameworks made from carbon fiber and Martian dust. These early experiments are crude but hopeful. They speak of the future, of settlements that will grow from these first few shelters into towns, and maybe one day, cities. The air inside the habitat becomes fresher as the plants flourish. Oxygen levels stabilize, humidity softens the dryness, and a faint, earthy fragrance lingers in the airlocks. It reminds them of forests and rain. Sometimes they close their eyes and imagine walking under real trees again, hearing leaves rustle, the kind of sound that memory alone can almost recreate. Water cycles through the systems endlessly. It condenses, purifies, and returns the same molecules that once cooled the engines, now nourishing lettuce leaves. The crew has come to see water not just as a necessity but as a living presence. Each drop holds continuity, a story from the stars to their lips. As months pass, the base feels less mechanical, more alive. The hum of the machines no longer dominates. Instead, there's a rhythm: air moving, lights pulsing, leaves stirring under fans. The astronauts have learned its song, and it comforts them. They no longer fear the stillness outside, because they've built something inside that answers it. They begin to imagine expansion, more gardens, larger habitats, maybe even greenhouses made from local glass. They dream of standing under a dome filled with trees one day, of children who will run barefoot on Martian soil that has known nothing but stone. These thoughts no longer seem like fantasies, they are the next logical steps. In their communication logs to Earth, they speak not only of readings and samples but of growth, of small wonders. They send photos of flowers blooming under artificial light, their colors vivid against the gray walls. Those images, when they reach home, move entire nations, proof that life can bloom anywhere if given patience and care. Outside, dust storms sometimes sweep across the plain, turning the world into swirling shadows. The crew seals the habitat and listens as the wind howls softly against the walls. Inside, the garden remains steady, its leaves trembling under faint vibrations but holding firm. Life endures, even as the planet tests their resolve. When the storm passes, they step outside again, brushing away the fine red dust from the solar panels. The sky returns to its muted clarity, and the light returns. In that moment, they feel the same pride they once felt planting the first seed, a quiet certainty that this world, harsh as it is slowly learning to accept them. The first harvest comes almost shyly. Tiny tomatoes, crisp lettuce, fragrant herbs, small in quantity but rich in meaning. They share the meal together, laughing softly as they taste what they've grown with their own hands on another world. The flavor is faint, but it carries the weight of history. Later, as they rest, the commander writes in the log, "We are beginning to live here, not just exist." The words linger long after they're spoken. They mean something deeper than success, they mean belonging. Mars, for all its distance, is no longer an exile. It's home in the making. The base hums through another long Martian night. Outside, stars shimmer like frozen sparks, and the planet's thin wind whispers softly against the domes. Inside, the air is warm, green light glows faintly through the hydroponic chamber, and the sound of water trickling fills the silence. Humanity has found its rhythm here, a slow, gentle heartbeat on a red world, growing ever stronger. In the long Martian quiet, time becomes both a teacher and a test. The astronauts learn that everything here follows a slower rhythm, the way the sun climbs across the pale sky, the way dust drifts down after a storm, even the heartbeat of their own routines. There is no rushing the planet, no bending it to human urgency. Mars demands patience, and the crew learns to listen. Each day begins the same: systems checks, data logs, maintenance tasks. Yet behind the repetition, something profound unfolds, a growing awareness of how delicate the balance truly is. Every valve, every solar panel, every stored calorie matters. They move with precision, aware that mistakes can ripple outward like echoes in the thin air. The calm rhythm of routine becomes a comfort. The mission planners back on Earth had long warned about timing, the narrow windows when Mars and Earth align in such a way that travel between them is possible. These return windows arrive every 26 months, dictated by celestial geometry. To miss one means waiting for the next, with dwindling supplies and increasing strain. The astronauts live with that countdown constantly in the background. Their calendar becomes more than a schedule, it becomes a heartbeat of home. The crew tracks the days with care, marking milestones in the dust. When the numbers begin to align, they know what it means: soon, the sky will open again. Yet preparation is slow and deliberate, a quiet choreography of logistics and hope. Every piece of equipment must be checked twice, then checked again. The ascent vehicle, their lifeline, rests on a nearby plateau, its sleek frame covered in a thin coat of red dust. They visit it often, brushing the panels clean, testing the thrusters, running silent simulations. It's more than a machine. It's a promise that the bridge between worlds can still hold. Inside the habitat, they begin to store, pack, and seal. Samples of rock, water, and soiled treasures of science, gathered with reverence. Each vial carries history, the story of Mars before humans and the mark of humans on Mars. It's a dialogue between worlds, one they will bring back across the void. The waiting stretches out. Days blend into one another, their routines now driven by anticipation. Conversations become softer, more reflective. They talk about Earth often, the smell of rain, the shimmer of oceans, the warmth of sunlight that doesn't pass through filters. Home feels both near and impossibly far, a memory and a destination at once. Communication delays still persist, a faint echo between planets. Yet each message carries weight. When family voices arrive, they sound ghost-like, suspended in static. The astronauts respond softly, knowing their words will arrive long after they're spoken. The slowness of light becomes part of their patience, part of the rhythm of waiting. The return isn't just about physics, it's about readiness. The crew must be strong enough to endure launch, re-entry, and the long months of space travel. Their muscles, weakened by lower gravity, require constant training. They stretch, run, lift, every motion a quiet defiance against the softness that life here encourages. They want to leave healthy, not merely alive. Night falls on Mars differently now, less alien, more familiar. The stars, so sharp in the thin atmosphere, remind them that every journey is a cycle. They came from among those points of light, and soon, they will travel back toward one. Beneath that eternal stillness, the crew feels both small and infinite. Planning the return feels like preparing a ritual. The data is reviewed, fuel reserves recalculated, communication relays tested. Engineers back on Earth simulate every scenario, while the astronauts act them out in perfect rhythm. One error could mean disaster, one oversight could close the window forever. But they have grown meticulous, patience has honed them. Supplies dwindle, but carefully. Every meal is portioned precisely, every resource accounted for. Even scarcity feels sacred now. They have learned the art of sufficiency, that life doesn't need abundance to be meaningful. What they have is enough. What they've created is more than survival, it's continuity. Sometimes they gather by the viewport and watch the small, rising disk of Earth as it appears in the distance. It's faint, a shimmering blue-white point, but to them, it's everything. They talk softly about what they'll do when they return, the first breath of open air, the first touch of rain. Yet there's hesitation, too. They've become part of Mars in ways they never expected. The thought of leaving carries a strange ache. This world, though harsh and silent, has shaped them. The dust has entered their clothes, the stillness their thoughts. The idea of home has stretched to include this red horizon. The rhythm of waiting, of planning, has bound them to the place as much as to their mission. The launch date approaches like the slow turning of seasons. Systems hum steadily, the ascent vehicle gleams under morning frost. Every test passes. Every connection holds. The crew begins to feel the shift, a subtle tension in the air, a stirring in the heart. Soon, the long patience will give way to motion once more. They spend their last nights wandering the habitat, touching the walls, the plants, the machines. Each surface carries memory, laughter, fatigue, triumph. The green leaves of their hydroponic garden tremble gently under artificial light. They harvest one final meal together, tasting the fruits of their endurance. Outside, the planet seems to listen. The winds are soft, carrying faint murmurs over the dunes. The crew stands for a while, gazing at the endless plains, their suits gleaming under the fading sun. There is no grand farewell, no ceremony, just a quiet understanding that part of them will always remain here. The ascent day dawns cold and still. The sky glows faintly pink as the engines ignite, sending tremors through the thin soil. Dust lifts in slow, curling waves. Inside the vehicle, the crew feels the familiar pressure return, that deep, shaking force that once brought them here and will now carry them home. The planet falls away beneath them, shrinking, softening into memory. The base, their home for so long, becomes a glimmering speck. The silence that follows is immense. Mars, once so close, begins to recede into the velvet dark. They stare at it for a long time, the red sphere glowing faintly against black infinity. As they arc into orbit, the alignment is perfect. The transfer window opens a narrow celestial bridge between two worlds. Engines burn with quiet precision, adjusting trajectory. The crew watches the numbers stabilize, feeling the shift from one gravitational cradle to another. Homeward. It sounds like a dream. The journey will be long again, measured in months and patience. Space stretches before them, silent, vast, familiar. But they are not the same people who left Earth. Mars has taught them stillness, endurance, humility. The return is not just movement, it is transformation. In the solitude of transit, they reflect on what it means to return. Is home merely a place, or a feeling carried within? They realize it's both, an echo that grows stronger with distance. Every mile closer to Earth feels like a note in a song that's been playing since their first launch. They watch the stars again, their brightness undiminished. Somewhere out there, other missions will follow, new footprints, new seeds, new homes. The crew smiles at the thought. They were only the beginning, a whisper in a long conversation between humanity and the cosmos. Back on Mars, the habitat still stands silent, enduring, waiting for the next visitors. The gardens have wilted, yet their roots remain, sleeping beneath the dust. The solar panels catch the sun each day, gleaming faintly as if remembering. Mars has been touched by life, and that memory will never fade. As their ship drifts closer to Earth, they can almost smell rain again. The blue marble grows larger in the viewport, bright and tender. The rhythms of waiting and patience have brought them home. But part of their hearts still beats on a quiet red world, where time moves differently, and the future hums softly beneath the dust. The first sight of clouds brings tears, silent, unspoken, shared. They have come full circle, through patience, planning, and the endless rhythm of the cosmos. They know now that journeys never truly end. They only change direction, moving gently between the stars and the places we dare to call home. The journey home begins not with noise, but with a silence so deep it feels like breath itself. The engines fade, the hum of machinery steadies, and space stretches endlessly before them, black, serene, infinite. The crew sits in the dim cabin light, each wrapped in quiet thought. Mars grows smaller behind them, a fading ember in the darkness. For the first time in months, the direction of their longing has changed. They are no longer explorers moving outward. They are wanderers returning. Inside the ship, everything has a rhythm again, soft routines of maintenance, quiet meals, moments of rest between long stretches of stillness. The familiar beeps and murmurs of the systems form a background lullaby. Outside the viewport, stars drift past like silent witnesses. They know the way home, as if watching gently over these travelers who dared to leave and now, humbly, come back. Their days are marked by light and shadow, by the soft pulses of the navigation lights and the hum of recycled air. Each morning, the commander reads the day's status report, battery levels, velocity, distance remaining. The words come out in a low, calm tone, almost like a bedtime story read to a restless child. Everyone listens, nods, and returns to their tasks with the patience of people who have lived too long in the company of time. Sometimes, they find themselves staring out for hours. The void outside is endless, but not empty. It's filled with memory, flashes of the red plains, the sound of their boots pressing into Martian dust, the glow of their tiny garden. It all feels both close and impossibly distant. Each star seems to whisper of places yet unseen, but for now, their hearts lean toward one place only, home. They begin to speak more softly, not out of necessity but from a deep respect for the stillness around them. The universe is vast and listening. Their words, small and human, seem to echo farther out than ever before. Conversations drift from technical reports to quiet reflections, what they miss, what they've learned, what they'll carry back. Meals become moments of comfort, of togetherness. They sit close in the small galley, sharing rehydrated food and faint smiles. The taste no longer matters. What matters is presence, the feeling of being surrounded by familiar faces in an unfamiliar sea. Even laughter, rare and subdued, sounds different here, floating softly in recycled air. The ship's walls vibrate faintly with motion, a constant reminder of speed and purpose. Yet the sensation feels gentle, like the rocking of a cradle. Each vibration says, "You're moving forward. You're going home." That thought, repeated daily, becomes a kind of meditation. Every pulse of the engines, every rotation of the gyros feels like the heartbeat of the long voyage home. When sleep comes, it's deep and dreamlike. The darkness outside matches the one behind their eyelids. In dreams, they walk through forests, across beaches, under skies filled with clouds. The body remembers what the eyes cannot see. Sometimes they wake with tears, not of sadness but of longing, for air that smells of rain, for the warmth of sunlight filtered through atmosphere. There. Communication with Earth grows stronger as distance shrinks. The delays shorten, voices arrive clearer. Families sound less like echoes and more like presence. The first real-time reply feels like a miracle, a small bridge restored across millions of miles. They talk of weather, of seasons, of ordinary life. Those small details feel extraordinary now. Days pass quietly, marked by routine and reflection. The data from their mission is stored safely, but it's their own memories that feel like the true treasure. Every moment on Mars, every challenge, every silence, taught them something profound about fragility and resilience. They carry that understanding like light inside them. Sometimes, when they pass near asteroids or clouds of dust, the ship's sensors hum a little louder. The view fills with drifting fragments, ancient rocks wandering the void. They move slowly past, indifferent yet beautiful. The astronauts watch them in reverent silence, feeling part of something vast and unhurried. It reminds them that even motion can be peaceful. As Earth draws nearer, the stars begin to thin, fading slightly against the reflected glow of the sun. The blue dot that was once invisible now shimmers faintly in the distance. They gather at the viewport often, watching it grow. It feels alive, like a heart beating at the center of the dark. They whisper to one another, as if afraid to break the spell. The commander records logs daily, her voice steady but tinged with softness. Day 196 of return transit, she says. All systems nominal. Crew in good spirits. Earth visible on horizon. Simple words, but they carry the weight of lifetimes. Behind each phrase lies the unspoken awe of what it means to have left and to now find the way back. The closer they get, the more they think of sound, the things they haven't heard in so long. The rustle of leaves, the crash of waves, the hum of cities. Mars was quiet, its silence ancient and wise, but Earth's noise feels like music waiting for them. The idea of hearing wind again fills them with childlike anticipation. Their final weeks in transit become almost sacred. Every moment feels suspended between worlds. They know they are returning, yet a part of them already misses the silence of space. It's strange how the absence of sound can become its own kind of song, one that soothes and humbles. They realize they will never forget it. The stars no longer look cold. They look familiar, companions who watch them come and now. Watch them go. Sometimes one of the crew members leaves a window open while they work, letting starlight spill across the panels. It feels like company. In that faint glow, time itself seems to slow, giving them space to breathe. Homecoming procedures begin with quiet precision. System diagnostics, trajectory adjustments, communication relays, each task completed methodically, almost ritualistically. They know that the chaos of reentry lies ahead, but for now, the calm persists. They savor it, aware that the hush before return may be the most peaceful moment they'll ever know. They dream again of oceans, of the smell of wet earth. They imagine gravity's pull as an embrace waiting to happen. Their bodies, long adapted to weightlessness, will resist it at first. But they crave that pull, the anchoring, the sensation of belonging once more to the surface of a living world. When they finally see the continents through the viewport, their breath catches. Clouds drift lazily across blue vastness, sunlight glints off oceans, and green stretches ripple with life. It looks impossibly fragile and impossibly strong at once. The sight quiets them all. For a moment, no one speaks. Raintree begins in fire. The ship shudders, wrapped in blazing light. Heat and sound return like long-forgotten sensations. The astronauts feel the weight pressing down, gravity pulling them back into the cradle of the world that birthed them. The roar is deafening, yet beneath it all is a steady calm, the hush of belonging. When the parachutes open, silence returns, softer this time. The capsule drifts gently through blue air, clouds parting beneath. The crew feels the shift in temperature, the scent of atmosphere through the filters: oxygen, moisture, life. Some close their eyes and let the tears come freely. Touchdown is gentle. The ground meets them like an old friend. For a heartbeat, no one moves. Then laughter bursts out, not loud, but full of release. They've made it back. The hush that follows is deep and peaceful, filled with gratitude. The earth hums beneath their feet, alive, forgiving, unchanged and yet forever new. Later, as they step out beneath open sky, the sound of wind greets them, that ancient, endless whisper of air moving over land. It's louder than they remember, almost overwhelming. They stand in it, faces lifted, eyes closed. For the first time in years, they are surrounded by the symphony of life. The days that follow blur together: debriefings, examinations, reunions. Yet in quiet moments, they find themselves missing the stillness of space. It lingers like a memory of peace, the hum of distant stars still echoing faintly inside their minds. It reminds them that silence, too, can be beautiful. At night, some of them dream of Mars, its thin skies, its red horizon, the garden's gentle glow. They see themselves walking again through that silent dust, footprints stretching toward nothing and everything. It doesn't feel like leaving anymore, it feels like continuing a story written across worlds. They begin to understand that home isn't a single place. It's wherever life persists, wherever hearts find quiet balance between wonder and rest. Earth, Mars, space, all are chapters in the same cosmic breath. What matters is not the distance traveled, but the stillness learned along the way. Months later, when they look up at the night sky, they find Mars again, a faint, steady spark among countless others. It's small, but it glows with memory. They smile softly, knowing that somewhere on that distant world, their footprints still rest, undisturbed, waiting under a quiet sky. The hush that follows their return never truly leaves them. It becomes part of how they move, how they think, how they listen. Even amid the noise of Earth, they carry an inner stillness, shaped by stars, by distance, by patience. It is their truest souvenir. In quiet rooms, they sometimes tell stories to children about what silence sounds like between worlds, about dust that sings in the wind and stars that watch in perfect stillness. Their voices are low, their words slow, as if afraid to disturb that delicate peace. And when they pause, the children lean closer, eyes wide. What was it like out there? They ask. The astronauts smile and look up at the night sky. Peaceful, they say softly. So peaceful that you could almost hear the universe breathe. Even years later, when their lives have returned to ordinary rhythms, there are moments in the hush before dawn